Story 1. Am I the jerk for ruining a proposal? My girlfriend recently bought a house and was extremely excited about it. She invited a lot of people over for a housewarming party. She put so much effort into everything and the house looked amazing. The food was delicious. Right after dinner, while my girlfriend was getting dessert, her brother proposed to his girlfriend. I was upset because he hijacked my girlfriend's event that she had worked so hard for. Before she could answer, I told him to sit down and stop being so rude and disrespectful to his sister. He was angry, but his girlfriend looked embarrassed. They ended up leaving. The party was very awkward after that. Many people left early. My girlfriend's mom was furious at me because she wanted her son to stop living in sin, and I ruined it. My girlfriend said that what I did was sweet, but didn't need to do that. Her brother texted me calling me a jerk. So was I the jerk for telling them to have some class? Story 2. Am I the jerk for not letting my nephew bring his service dog to my wedding? I'm a 27-year-old female and I'm getting married in a few months to my fiancé, who is a 28-year-old male. We have been planning our dream wedding for over a year, and everything is finally falling into place. However, there is one issue that has been causing quite a bit of controversy in our family. My nephew James, an 18-year-old male, has a service dog named Max for his anxiety and panic attacks. Max is a well-trained and well-behaved dog, and he has been a great help to James over the years. However, I am severely allergic to dogs. It's to the point where I could have a severe reaction if I am around them for an extended period of time. This is something my family is well aware of. When we sent out the invitations for our wedding, we made it clear that there would be a strict no pets policy due to my allergies. James and his parents approached us and asked if Max could be an exception, as he is a service dog and not just a pet. They assured us that Max would be on his best behavior and would not cause any problems. As much as I understand the importance of Max to James, I had to say no. My wedding day is supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, and I do not want to risk having a severe allergic reaction during the ceremony or reception. I explained this to James and his parents, and offered to help find alternative accommodations for Max during the wedding. My decision has caused a lot of controversy in the family. Some of my relatives believe that I am being selfish and inconsiderate, while others understand my point of view and support my decision. James is understandably upset, and I feel terrible about the situation. So, am I the jerk for not allowing my nephew to bring his service dog to my wedding? I'm going to say that OP is not the jerk. I would not want to be sniffling, itchy, and all kinds of messed up on my wedding day either. The OP understands the importance of Max to her nephew, but it is something that I would not budge on either. It's just not worth the risk. Story 3. Am I the jerk because I sat on my boyfriend's friend's lap because there were no seats left? I'm a 25-year-old female and my boyfriend B is a 25-year-old male. We have been dating for 2 years. B is very intelligent, thoughtful, and polite, but he is a people pleaser and does not like confrontation. He has a best friend who we'll call K, and he's a 21-year-old male. He has an adorable smile, but an awful personality. If K doesn't know you, he's cold and rude. B says that's just how he is. K likes to make fun of me, but B says K is just teasing me and that he likes me a lot. B keeps inviting K on our outings that are supposed to be dates. Most recently, B had organized a hiking/nature outing. When we arrived, I found out he invited K. The 3 of us did an easy but long hike for the entire day. At the end of the trail, there is a ride that takes you back to civilization. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it's a truck attached to a trailer with seats. It's not enclosed, so you can see the night sky and feel the breeze. The ride comes around every 2 hours. There were several people waiting for the ride back at the end of the hike. When it came, everyone scrambled on and I didn't have a seat. The driver yelled that I couldn't stand. I asked B to move over since I'm pretty small, but he said he didn't think it was allowed since it was 1 seat. He told me to wait here for the next ride. I didn't want to wait alone while it was getting dark. The driver said to either sit down or get off. I started to move to get off, but Kay said to sit on his lap. I wasn't in the mood to joke, so I sat on his lap. The ride was about 50 minutes to an hour long. We got off and B and I went to my car. I thought it was the end of that. B told me that I had embarrassed K and everyone in the ride with the stunt I pulled. He said that I acted immaturely and I should not have done that. I should have waited for the next ride. He requested for me to apologize. I told him that I didn't think I did anything wrong. Story 4. I'm a 35-year-old female who is an introvert, and I also have severe anxiety. Being the center of attention is my biggest nightmare. I would be perfectly fine living alone in the woods as a recluse. Because of that, I dislike going out for my birthday. I'll either spend it alone or at home with close friends where I am more comfortable. I have some friends and family who always want me to go out for my birthday with them, and sometimes I go. Unfortunately, even though I literally beg them not to, every once in a while someone will think it's funny to tell the staff it's my birthday and have them do the whole dessert and sing happy birthday, and I literally go into a full-on panic attack. They think it's hilarious. They sometimes pull out cameras and record while they laugh. A week ago, my grandma died. The family pushed and wanted to do a birthday dinner. They said it would be good to get out of the house. Some close friends also went. Well, we were finishing up dinner, and I heard the sound that filled me with anger and rage. It was the sound of the line of waitstaff clapping as they were all walking towards us with a dessert with candles, and they started their restaurant's signature loud and obnoxious birthday song. My brother and his wife started laughing. With the waitstaff mid-song and about 5 feet from our table, I got up, walked out of the restaurant, got in my car, and went home. My mom says she was mortified and that I was a major jerk. She said it wasn't only rude to everyone who came to my birthday, but also to the staff. That she had to apologize profusely and leave an extra tip. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP is the jerk, even though their family probably doesn't mean harm, and they most likely don't understand just how horrifying the experience is for OP. If asked several times and begged not to do it, they should respect her wishes. Story 5. Am I the jerk for threatening to move out after my sister ate the last piece of cake, even after I asked her not to? I'm a 24-year-old female who lives with my 27-year-old sister in a small apartment. We generally get along well and share household responsibilities. We also share groceries and occasionally treat ourselves to some desserts or snacks. Last week, I bought a small cake for us to share. We each had a slice and there was one piece left. I mentioned that I wanted to save the last piece for a treat after work the following day. My sister agreed, and I didn't think much of it. The next day, I came home from work looking forward to enjoying the last slice of cake. When I opened the fridge, I discovered that the cake was gone. My sister admitted that she had eaten it, even though she knew I had claimed it. She said she had a moment of weakness and thought it wouldn't be a big deal. I got upset and accused her of being selfish and inconsiderate for eating the piece I had been looking forward to all day. She felt guilty and apologized, but I was still really hurt by her actions. My sister offered to buy another cake or any other dessert of my choice to make it up to me. But I told her it's not about the cake itself. It's about her not respecting my wishes and taking something that I had clearly claimed. This incident has made me reconsider living with my sister. I feel like our relationship is strained, and I'm thinking about moving out to have my own space and avoid any further conflicts. However, I'm aware that my sister can't afford the rent on her own, and if I move out, she'll likely have to move back in with our parents. My sister thinks I'm overreacting about a small issue, and that it's just a piece of cake. She has already apologized and offered to replace it, but I still feel hurt and disrespected. So, am I the jerk for considering moving out because my sister ate the last piece of cake I had been saving for myself, knowing she can't afford the rent on her own? I could be wrong, and would need more context to be sure. But I'm going to say both the OP and sister are jerks. It seems like OP is overreacting to an issue and just trying to find an excuse to move out. I could be wrong, and this is just the straw that broke the camel's back in a long list of previous issues. But just based on the given context, I will say they were being the jerk. The sister is less of a jerk, I think, but eating someone's claimed leftovers is still a crappy thing to do. Story 6. Am I the jerk for refusing to honor my boyfriend's family's tradition? My boyfriend Eric is 29 years old, and I am a 27-year-old female. We have been dating for 3 years. For context, I have met his family, and they are friendly. We don't meet them very often because they live in my boyfriend's home country. I don't want to reveal the country names either for privacy reasons, but my boyfriend and I are of different nationalities, and we both work in my country. The conflict happened during our last visit last weekend. We have been looking at houses to move in together, and have also been looking at engagement rings. While we were having dinner, we mentioned this to his family as it's a big step in our relationship for us, as we are not engaged yet. His parents and brothers expressed their happiness for us. Then out of nowhere, his youngest sister-in-law asked, "So is she going to take the test?" I asked, "What test?" In summary, my boyfriend's family has this tradition where the future mother-in-law tests future daughters-in-law to see if they are good enough for her sons. Apparently, his mother and aunts went through the same test. The tests include how clean they can keep a home, how well they can cook, their manners, etc. Basically, life skills most people learn from childhood. I found it ridiculous because if I'm good enough for my boyfriend, he should be the one deciding it. I don't fit in their targeted category. In his mom's words, "You can't be a good stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mom if you can't be a good homemaker," and she wants to make sure of that. To be clear, his mom and all 3 of his brothers' wives are stay-at-home moms. Although I respect their choice, I am not quitting my career. I did not under any circumstances make my boyfriend think I could compromise on that. I dislike house chores and would rather buy homemaking gadgets and hire staff no matter the cost than have to do chores myself. I told my boyfriend's mom all this, and it caused an argument that eventually ruined dinner, and in extension, our visit. My boyfriend doesn't care whether I'm a working wife or a stay-at-home wife, but he thinks I should have just done the test because it's just a test, and it's not like they would reject me if I failed it. He thinks it's a fun tradition that everyone was looking forward to, and I should have gone along with it anyway. My boyfriend thinks I'm the jerk and suggested I make this post. If I really am the jerk, I'm sure you guys will let me know. Story 7. Am I the jerk for demolishing my daughter's room after she moved out? My 18-year-old daughter Meg is in college. She moved in with her boyfriend a few months ago, which left her old bedroom empty. Her bedroom used to be right next to our tiny living room. To make our tiny living room into a normal-sized living room, we knocked out my daughter's room's wall, refloored the space, and fixed the walls. Now it looks like the bedroom was never there, and we have a spacious living room. When my daughter came home to visit and saw that her room was gone, she made a huge deal about it. She got all emotional and said if we never wanted to let her move back, we should have just said so instead of completely demolishing her room. I told her that if anything happens and she needs to move back, we will welcome her, and she could sleep on the couch as long as she wants. She accused us of wanting to get rid of her forever, and for her to never visit us since we got rid of her room so fast. That it had been only a few months after she moved out, and we should have waited longer. Am I the jerk for not waiting longer before doing the renovation? I think neither the parents nor the daughter are the jerk. There's nothing wrong with the OP starting a remodel when it's expected that the daughter will be in college for the next few years. It'd be nice of the parents to keep the room as a spare room for their daughter when visiting, or in case she moves back in, but it should not be expected. I don't think the daughter is a jerk either, as moving out of your parents' house for the first time and transitioning into an independent adult is a very emotional time. It doesn't seem to me that the daughter had an overreaction, but a perfectly normal reaction to the reminder of the permanence of this next stage of her life. Story 8. Am I the jerk for selling the house my brother and his family live in? A few years ago, my brother needed help. I let him move into one of my rental properties, and we did it all legally with a lease agreement and everything. Since I was renting to him at a break-even point, we agreed that he was responsible for all the maintenance of the house and yard. He has 4 kids, and the hot water tank isn't enough for his family, so he wants a new one. I told him to go ahead. He then proceeded to take the cost of the hot water tank and installation out of that month's rent. I reminded him of our agreement, and he said he wasn't making improvements to my property for free. I said that the old hot water tank was fine, and he made the decision to replace it. We had a big argument, and I didn't want to fight, so I said that he was not allowed to make any further changes to the house without my explicit agreement. So he stopped doing maintenance as a protest. The house itself is not pretty, but it is solid, it is old, and the wiring in it was not meant for all the modern electronics we have. He wanted to add a new breaker box and run more outlets. I said no thanks. I cannot afford that since I'm not making any money on the house. He started getting upset about it, and the rent started getting paid late. I tried talking to him, but he said that he had to buy some stuff for the house and he was low on cash. So I sold the house. While the house itself isn't great, it is in an older part of the city, and the property itself is 1/4 of an acre. Every time a house sells in the neighborhood, it is snapped up by developers and turned into multifamily units. One guy built a McMansion on his land. I know a lot of the developers, and I didn't even need to list the house to have it sold in less than a week. My brother found out when he was served with an eviction notice. He called me to ask what was going on, so I told him that the house was causing me headaches and I had an opportunity to make some money, and I took it. He said I should have offered him a chance to buy it. I said that he was having trouble making rent, so how was he going to qualify for a mortgage? He said I was a jerk and that he had the money and was waiting to make me an offer. I asked him if he had money. Why was he late on his rent? He started bad-mouthing me to all of our family. A few of them took his side and tried to say I was being a jerk, so I offered all of them a chance to clear his debt to me if they wanted to share their opinion. None of them took me up on the offer. My parents are on my side, and they said I shouldn't have rented to him in the first place. I feel bad for my sister-in-law and the kids, but I'm not going to spend the rest of my life subsidizing him. Story 9. Am I the jerk for blowing up on my son's girlfriend? My husband thinks I'm right, but my niece helped me make this post here to see what other people think. I'm a 52-year-old female and have 3 sons ranging from the ages of 13 to 20. My oldest son is 20. He has a 19-year-old girlfriend that hangs around our house a lot. It's a really small house and doesn't have a lot of space. She's a nice girl, but gets on my nerves sometimes because she's always over. I really don't think she's right for my son either. Our tap water has a weird aftertaste, so I order gallon water bottles and use them to refill a big glass bowl with a tap. It is not cheap to get water and other groceries delivered, so I tell my sons, husband, and the girlfriend to be courteous of the other people who live here and not use up the water, as it runs out fast in our big household. Yesterday, I caught her filling up her big metal water bottle with the jug water, and I calmly told her that other people live here too. She shouldn't hog the water all to herself. She was rather short with me and said something along the lines of, "Actually, this water bottle is big enough to hold all the water someone should be drinking in a day. I'm not hogging water, I'm just trying to stay hydrated." I found her tone to be disrespectful and ordered her to leave. She scoffed and went back to my son's room. That's when I really got frustrated. I opened their door and told her she had to leave. My son got really angry with me and told me that his girlfriend didn't do anything wrong. Why is it a crime for her to drink water? I explained that I order this water for our family to use, not for people who hang around all day rent-free. My son's girlfriend got a little teary-eyed and left the room and out the front door without saying anything. My son told me that I was a major jerk and should have just minded my own business. I think she's just wasteful and a brat. Edit. Thanks for all the comments. I have spoken to my son about the issue, and you all made me realize that it was deeper than just the water. I showed him this post and explained that it's not her, it's me. I think she reacted that way when I initially told her off for filling up the bottle because I was never really nice to her to begin with. We called her on the phone this morning and I apologized for my reaction to the bottle. I explained I didn't mean to make her feel bad about the water. It really wasn't that big of a deal, and I feel silly for making it a big deal. She apologized for having an attitude and explained how she can feel a little defensive around me sometimes. I told her and my son that I will work on my attitude. My husband still thinks she was being disrespectful, but I explained that I'm the reason she felt the need to act that way in the first place. It's not my choice who my son decides to date, and I need to respect his choice. I think she is a sweet girl, and I feel horrible for the way I have been treating her. Again, thank you to everyone for making me realize my mistake. I have looked into purchasing a Brita pitcher to see if that is more cost-effective. My son's girlfriend now brings water from home, although I didn't tell her to do that.